I've always had a passion for being around and learning about animals. When I was younger, going to zoos and animal parks was always a part of my life. I wanted to share my passion with family and friends, so I started working with people that loved animals as much as I did, and my YouTube channel was born. Welcome back to my animal education series. Today I'm here with Leah at the Memphis Zoo. Hello.
Hello.
And what do we have here?
This is Duncan. He is a Wedge Tail Eagle found in Australia.
And you're seeing during the show that it's one of the only eagles or birds that actually eat dead animals.
In Australia, yes. So normally when we think of birds that eat dead animals, like roadkill and stuff, usually we think of vultures, especially like turkey vultures.
Exactly.
They're very common. But in Australia, there are no vulture species. So wedge-tailed eagles, or wedgies, as they're known there, are the scavengers. They are the ones who are basically nature's garbage disposals, and they eat all those nasty, rotting carcasses.
And what adaptations does this bird have to help it do that?
Well, you can see his face. It's a little bit more bald than other eagle faces that you might be familiar with.
Kind of like a vulture.
Exactly, just like a vulture. So that's so he can get his head not quite as far into a nasty carcass as, say, a vulture would, but being a large eagle species, he would be able to scare away some of the other scavengers like dingoes and such that would wander over to a carcass. So he could probably get some of the good pieces of meat, whereas vultures, depending on where they are in a hierarchy, they're going to have to wait until everybody else is done, and they're going to have to stick their head way in there.
And you're also saying that these eagles would pair up and hunt larger prey.
Yep. They will hunt together in a pair to take down large prey items like sheep, goats, dingoes, and they've even been seen working together to chase kangaroos.
Those are very big animals.
Yes, they're huge.
And is that where these talons would come into play?
Yep, these talons are his weapons. They are how he would catch and kill his prey if he's doing some live hunting. And even though kangaroos are much bigger than he is, all he has to do is get behind a kangaroo and get to something that's exposed or vulnerable, like say the neck. And if he can get a talon in there and squeeze, he's got enough power in his feet that he could either paralyze that kangaroo or at the very least cause it enough problems that the second wedgie can come in and help take it down entirely.
It's incredible how they adapted to do that.
It is. Wedgies are awesome. I love wedge-tailed eagles.
And also during the show, you were saying that they're very brave, that they've even seen trying to attack helicopters.
Yes. So wedge-tailed eagles are a very territorial species. They have been seen flying after helicopters in their native Australia. They actually became the official mascot of the Royal Australian Air Force because they were so brave at taking down helicopters. They decided they wanted to associate that with their Air Force. They want people to see them as brave and taking chances, taking risks to defend their space.
And I think that's a very fitting symbol.
Exactly, yes. And then Duncan himself, in classic wedgie fashion, he's chased a couple of different things away from his bird shows that he deemed a threat. One year there was a wild red-tailed hawk that was flying around. Duncan chased it away from the theater and then came right back once it was out of his territory. He's also chased after a bulldozer and a white pickup truck that he apparently thought looked awfully shifty, but it may have just had a manual transmission.
And good thing, I can flip therapies now. So how did the wedge-tailed eagle get its name?
So wedge-tailed eagles get their name. We've got it pulled up right now, but when they're in flight, their feathers spread out to make a wedge, and that is actually their rudder that they use to steer through the air currents over the large outback stretches of Australia. So basically, it's a wedge, and it's on their tail, so it's wedge-tailed eagle.
And how did you go in possession of this bird?
So Duncan is really special. Duncan was the very first wedge-tailed eagle ever hatched in captivity in the United States. He hatched at World Bird Sanctuary outside of St. Louis, Missouri about 29 years ago. He has two siblings. Their names are Sydney and Darwin, and they went out to Hollywood. They're in the movies. So they've been in a variety of different feature films. And Duncan and his siblings are, as far as we know, the only wedge-tailed eagles in captivity in the United States. So that's how we got him, is he hatched at World Bird. And for many, he flew back when we had shows down in SeaWorld, and then he went into retirement for several years. We brought him back out of retirement into zoo shows in about 2013, and he's been flying ever since, and he is a rock star.
So what makes him such a great show bird?
Well, Duncan makes a great showbird for a couple different reasons. One, he's very charismatic. I mean, look at this bird. Look at his face. You look at him and you just want to know more about him. He's also a very unusual bird. A lot of people have never seen a wedge-tailed eagle. When they think of eagles, first thing that pops in their head is bald eagle. So to A, find out there are other eagle species in the world, and that there's one that does the work of a vulture, which many people tend to think that the only birds to scavenge are vultures. That's really cool to see people learn that. And then he's just such a great flyer, because when he does fly, since he is a bird that's going to be flying over large open spaces in the wild, he opens up his wings, opens up his tail, and he just sails like a kite, and it's so beautiful. And people just watch him and they ooh and they ah, and they really make a connection with him, because he is just this large, majestic, beautiful bird, and they want to learn more about him. So then they learn more about the wildlife in Australia, and they learn more about birds in general, and he's just a really good bird to have people start making connections with, because he has a cool story. He's, as you can see, a very well-behaved bird. He's just chilling here, being good. So he's an amazing education bird.
Well, thank you so much for telling us about these eagles.
Well, no problem. I could talk about Duncan all day.
And if you guys enjoyed this week's episode, don't forget to leave a big thumbs up down below, subscribe to my channel, and also check out my Instagram @CoolShirt. And as always, I'll see you next week.